Hey guys, welcome to my first real YouTube video. Big thanks to Scott Martin for pushing me to do this. Today we're gonna cook venison. I love venison, growing up eating venison. But most of the time I see people treat it with lots of disrespect. They wrap it in bacon, they put cream cheese on it, all kinds of stuff that just covers up the flavor. And to be honest with you, you could wrap this dried up cow turd with bacon, smother it with cream cheese, and it's gonna taste great. But that's not what we're gonna do. I'm gonna show you how I like to make it. And the first thing we need is some wood. Here I have my pecan wood. I'm using some smaller pieces today so that they burn down to coal because you don't really want to cook over flame. You really want to cook over coals. We're also going to use a few pieces of mesquite. That's too big. We're going to use some smaller chunks. We don't need very much. It's got a very strong flavor, and it's going to overpower the venison if we have too much. Now, I don't have a ton of patience, so we're going to light this with my blowtorch. This makes things go pretty quickly. It's like 500,000 BTUs. It's normally used for roofing and burning weeds and such, but here, as you can see, it gets this fire going in less than a minute. You just want to get it hot enough to the point that it's going to burn cleanly on its own, being careful to get all sides so that it stays lit. Once the fire's burning on its own, I place this camp grill over top to go ahead and burn anything off of it. And I'm also going to go ahead and put these spring onions here just off to the side of the flames. I want to get these cooking now because they're going to take quite a while, and if we put them over the flames they would get burned on the outside and they'd be raw on the inside. There you can see how high I have this grill above the flames. It's going to take about 15 minutes for that wood to burn down to the point where I'm ready to put the meat on it. So we're going to start by getting our herb and garlic rub ready. The herb and garlic rub consists of just 4 ingredients. We've got some fresh thyme that I'm going to chop finely, and then we've got some fresh garlic, and that's really important to slam it as hard as humanly possible. In this case, I put the tripod holding my camera on the table, which added some dramatic effect. Then we're going to chop it up finely and blend the two together. Now that I've got the thyme and garlic chopped up finely, I'm going to take some coarse kosher salt and I'm going to use my knife to grind it into a paste. Now it's really important to be extra careful doing this. As you see, you don't want to cut your fingertips off, and you also don't want to ruin the blade of your knife. Once we get it pasted up, we're going to add some fresh ground black pepper, and that's it. That's the whole herb rub, nothing else to it. Once you get that all chopped up, go ahead and set it aside and let's get to work on the meat. Here I have a venison backstrap. As you can see, it has all of the silver skin, well, most of the silver skin removed, and I'm going to dry it thoroughly. It's really important to get it dry in order for the garlic and the herbs to stick to it. You also want it dry in order to help the crust develop on the outside. If meat's wet, it just tends to steam and kind of get gray and ugly, and we don't want that. As you can see here, I'm taking my time to cover every inch of the meat, getting all sides and really pressing it in there. By pressing it in, it's going to make it stick to the meat really well, and once the meat cooks and that crust forms, those herbs and that garlic is going to be a part of the outside of the meat. So you can see this fire has a hot side and a cool side, and I'm going to place the meat so that the thickest part is over the hottest part of the fire. That way, hopefully everything will be evenly cooked all the way through. That thin side will be nice and medium rare, just like the thick side. But I'm also going to spread this fire out just a little bit. It's getting a little too intense for me. Here you can see that crust forming, and notice that the garlic and the thyme, none of it's burnt. This fire is actually pretty gentle. Now while that's cooking, we're going to go ahead and feed the cows. Back up. Now that the cows are fed, they're no longer mooing and messing up my audio. Let's get back to the food. Now the onions are cooked and they're soft all the way through, so we're going to throw them directly onto the coals to get a little bit of a char on them. This is going to take a few minutes, and we're going to turn them every minute or so until they get an even char all the way around. While those guys char, I'm going to go ahead and check the backstrap for doneness. We're looking for medium rare all the way through. I didn't have a thermometer nor tongs, so I'm just squeezing it. I want it to just spring back after a little bit of pressure. If it springs immediately back, then you're probably overcooked. I like to let the meat rest for about 10 minutes, so while that's going on, let's go ahead and get these onions off so they can cool. Once the onions have cooled down, go ahead and peel off the outermost charred layer. Feel free to leave some charred pieces on there. It does add a nice flavor, but in this case I'm going to go ahead and peel all of it off. I'm only really interested in the sweeter, softer cooked parts on the inside for this dish. So the meat has sat for about 10 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and slice it up, and that is exactly what we're looking for. Medium rare all the way through, and I didn't show it here, but that color went all the way from end to end. Now this is a super lean cut of meat, and I find the texture to be the best when it's sliced thinly. Here I'm going for about a 1/4 inch thick. I'm going to dress it with some really good flavorful extra virgin olive oil and a little bit of coarse salt. You can use flake salt. I'm going to use kosher salt here. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to making more videos like this in the future. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and send it to your friends, and I will see you next week.